G'day guys and welcome back to another video. In today's upload, I am going to go through all the options on my new potential reef tank upgrade for 2025. It is a little bit of a longer video than usual, but if you guys are interested in some of the options that are available to us Australians here in terms of reef tanks availability, then you may enjoy this watch. I do go through a couple of different options as well as talking about my previous reef tank and then some things to keep in mind about when looking to upgrade your reef tank. So make sure you guys also stay until the end of the video. I'm going to give you guys a bit of an update on this tank. I did add a new fish, a little bit of a controversy around it, but rest assured we do have a plan. So without further ado, we'll get into the potential tank upgrades. All right guys, so let's get into a couple of reasons why I'm going to get a new reef tank and just some of the options that I'm looking at. And I'm also going to run through the previous tank that I had, which I've got on screen now, which was a Cade Pro Reef S2 1200, which is a 4x2x2, about 120 gallon reef tank. But the main reason why I am upgrading is, honestly, I've had the Waterbox Mini Pencil 25, and it was sort of like getting my feet wet in the hobby again, and just sort of testing the waters to see whether I really wanted to come back. And after having the tank for a year, I couldn't be happier to be back in the hobby. And while I do find it tricky at times, I just think the challenge of it and the community really keeps me engaged and going. So I do feel the need to upgrade and obviously try, my luck at a bigger tank, as I've had one in the past, but with, I would say, limited success. So I'm, back in the market for a bit of an upgrade. But the tank I've got here on screen now was my most previous reef shutdown, which was a Cade Pro Reef S2, as I just said, which retails for $3,400 now in 2025. It was a little bit cheaper a couple of years ago, but obviously with inflation and stuff, things have gone up, unfortunately. But it's now available in the white. When I purchased the tank, it's only in the black. Beautiful tank, very, very well made tank, with a unique design as well, with that back little water reservoir part that could hold your auto top off RO water, which is a nice addition that I thought, but I think was a little bit controversial. Some people didn't really think it was needed, but I did. So with this tank, my main sort of concern with it was the overall height. Now, I'm about 175 centimeters, so 5'9", and having a tank that, was fairly tall, it made it a bit tricky when doing maintenance and stuff, and having to get on a step ladder just made it a little bit annoying. So that is why I am looking to probably change it up and not go with this tank again. Obviously just showing you guys what I had previously. But yeah, the goal for the new tank is mainly going to be a sort of softy tank with a bigger emphasis on fish initially, and then I'm going to see how I go in terms of pest management. And if we're all good after a year, then we might expand into looking at more trickier LPS, and we might dabble in SPS once the tank is really established. But I think the key to a reef tank is the planning stage and what you want to achieve at the start. So instead of just buying a tank and stocking it with a bit of everything, and you sort of end up with a tank that's neither here nor there in terms of, I guess, the inhabitants, can lead to a bit of waywardness with the journey. And I think that's how a lot of my prior reef tanks have gone. But enough of me waffling. I'm going to go through all the options with you guys on what I'm considering at this moment in time. Probably from the most recent thought, I guess the most furthest back thought to the most recent. So I have been sort of considering this change for quite a while. But I'm not set on which path to go in terms of a tank. So I'll show you guys the first sort of train of thought, which was going down the Cade route again, but this time with a Frag tank. Now, I was looking at the Reef S2 Frag 1200, and the idea was that I was going to have it as sort of a semi-mangrove tank / reef setup. As you can see, it's obviously a shallow tank, and again, a superb design in my opinion. This tank in person, I've seen it quite a few times, is it's a piece of art, just the glass box by itself. So to be honest, I was pretty set on this tank, but thinking about it now and the fish inhabitants I want to have, I think unfortunately it's just going to be a little bit too shallow for the fish I want to get, and the fish I already have at the moment. So you can see the height of the tank itself is 41 mil, so sorry, 411 mil, so 41 centimeters, which obviously if you're just keeping frags, which is the, obviously what it's built for, it's ideal, but for me it's probably like just a little bit too shallow. And the one I was looking at in particular was 322 litres total water volume, or 88 gallons, with the main display being 252. So I decided that it was probably just going to be a little bit too shallow for my liking. So this tank I'm probably unlikely to go for at this stage, but nevertheless a really nice reef tank. The next option is a Waterbox Infinia Frag. So like the Cade Reef Frag, it's obviously another shallow frag tank, but this time it is a little bit longer. Now the Cade one you can get in the same length, but I did see the Waterbox, and something about it just caught my eye. And I think with the the extra width being 64 centimeters, you get that extra 4 sort of centimeters over the Reef Frag from Cade, made it a little bit interesting. And I think the sort of the design of Waterbox is quite good, and they do get a pretty good rap and reception here in Australia and online in the reefing community. So this has been a big consideration of mine, and I'll lead into the next one, because I basically had the same sort of thinking with this, in regards to it's probably going to be a little bit too shallow. You do get the extra length, obviously being 153 centimeters. It is a 5-foot reef tank, but it's still being potentially a little bit too shallow for what I'm trying to achieve. So then I moved on to potentially the Waterbox Infinia 150, and this is sort of where I'm at the moment. Retails for $3,298.95 at this store in particular. I'm mainly using nature pets and aquariums because of the UI and how nicely presented it is. It is one of my local fish shops that I do try and get to when I can. That's the reason why I'm mainly using their website. So as you can see, the tank itself, available obviously in black and white. It is a 4-foot reef tank, 64 centimeters wide and 55 centimeters tall. The height of the cabinet isn't too bad either, so it doesn't, the total height of the whole system isn't going to be too tall compared to the Cade. So it's sort of up my alley in that regard, and I am seriously considering this as an option. But there is a couple of other options, and I don't know, I think there's a few sort of question marks around Waterbox in terms of mainly their sump. I'm not the biggest fan of having a auto top-off reservoir in a sump. I think it takes too much space for what they give. So you'll have a system like this, which is 577 litres, and then they will try and jam a 20-litre reservoir in there, which will be finished in a couple of days. So I'm not the biggest fan of that, and I'm also not the biggest fan of buying a tank and then trying to mess with the sump or swap it out. I see it as a little bit of a waste of money. So I'm trying to buy a package that can come with as most of the things that I want straight out of the box, instead of me having to chop and change things. So that's all sort of where I'm at with this particular one. And I think this is also a good opportunity for, viewers outside of Australia to see the prices of reef tanks here in Australia, if, for those that are interested. I know they can vary quite a bit throughout the world. And obviously with the way things are at the moment, tanks are a big investment, so you want to sort of make the right decision. I'll show you another tank that I'm not seriously considering, but it's definitely in my mind. My first serious reef tank was a Red Sea Reefer 350. It was a G3. It was a Series 3 350. So the last one before they closed down the G1 lineup. It was a G1 version 3, I should say, or had a version 3 sump. Now I know Red Sea, obviously, I'm not going to get fully into it. They obviously have the reputation they do. Anyone who's in the reefing game will know why. They've had, if you don't know, I'll go through it quickly. A lot of their G1 tanks and older Red Sea tanks have had sort of dodgy seals. So when I say seals, I mean the silicon breaking. Having said that, in my personal opinion, I think the Red Seas are some of the best looking reef tanks. Now I know they are potentially crafted with not the best materials, it seems, but I haven't heard really anything in regards to the G2 being a fault. And I had a chat to one employee at one of my local fish shops, and he basically assured me that he's heard no issues with any of their G2 sales. So it did give me a little bit more confidence, but there's obviously that little bit of angst with it, because you sort of just never know, and once you've been bitten, you sort of are worried to do it. One of the reasons why I got rid of my Red Sea Reefer 350 was because we had an earthquake a couple of years ago in Melbourne, and I saw my whole tank shaking. And then at that time, Red Sea was going through the whole sort of silicon gate phase, where a lot of people's tanks were sort of busting, and I said, I'm not going to take the chance. That was genuinely one of the reasons why. But every time I see a Red Sea Reefer, I just am amazed by the look of the tanks. I think they're absolutely stunning, and the design, the sleekness of it, truly up there with one of the best reef tanks in terms of how they look, in my personal opinion. Obviously, structural integrity is probably up there with one of the most important parts. So if the tank is not structurally sound, I guess it doesn't. It can look $1 million, but if it's gonna bust after 5 years, then it's probably not worth it. But I have heard good things, so if it comes down to it, you never know. And a couple of other options here. This is more of a budget option. So Aqua One is an Australian brand. They are sort of available in the UK and some other territories. Now, here's a full, about a 350 litre reef tank setup for $1,500. That's probably like about 800 USD for a reef tank with the sump and cabinet. It's I don't know the exact material of the stand. I think it's a wooden stand, but with maybe the PFD material, so probably not the best. I have seen these tanks after a couple of years in not great condition, so and the price reflects that. It's a brilliant price for what you get, but I'm looking for a bit more longevity. I just thought I'd have it there as an option. I did consider it for a little bit, but I probably will look past it. And then there is a new system that has landed in Australia. I know US has had access to these tanks, obviously American brand, for I guess the last couple of years, but they've, if you guys have watched Parker's Reef's new video, he's got a build in progress with one of these systems, not the 120, I believe he's got the 90 or the R60 potentially, but these have sort of just landed in Australia. I believe only 2 reef stores in my state are stocking these. So gorgeous tanks, obviously. Like you look at it, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got this new style of sort of tray cabinetry with storage, and then it's got the acrylic sump with the enclosed areas to keep the evaporation down, and obviously aluminium stand and ripper design on the tank. So when I saw it, I was definitely interested, and then but
upon seeing the price, you know, just over $6.5 grand for a 4-foot system, probably out of my price range, to be honest, for what I'm trying to do, but definitely was considered for a little bit. And last but not least is the custom reef tank option. So going with a custom build. Now, this is seriously consideration at the moment, guys. I feel like I'm between the Waterbox, the Red Sea, and going for a custom reef tank. I'm after a sort of 4 by, I guess, 2 foot wide and not too tall size tank. So I am looking into it at the moment with a reef store, and seeing the feasibility of a custom reef tank. So stay tuned, because there might be some information around it that you guys might be interested in. But obviously, going a custom reef tank is you're all involved. You're involved with the physics side of it, the design, all the way down to the sump and your plumbing, your return. So you're all in, and it's a little bit more stressful. But I think if you can get it right, and if you can get a bit of guidance on it, and you get a tank that looks, you know, quite nice in the end, it's something to be fairly proud of. So we'll see where we land up, but that's sort of where I'm at the moment. I'm feeling a custom. I'm feeling this Waterbox Infinia. Not gonna lie, I like the look of these G2s. So we're sort of between those 3 options, and you know, I'm definitely considering the build quality of all the tanks, and the price, and I do have to consider the ongoing costs of a reef tank, and my decision will obviously come down to those things. So make sure you guys stay tuned. I know it's been a long one, but I hope you guys have sort of enjoyed this part, and I can show you some of the reef tanks that are readily available to us, sort of Australian consumers, and you know what people might look for and what you might pay. But yeah, if you are in the I guess the market for a new reef tank, you definitely want to consider what your goal is for the tank. You want to consider the size, the build quality, the price of it, and the ongoing cost. Because remember, all these tanks here that I'm showing you guys, $3.5 grand, $4.5 grand. It's just for the glass and the sump and the cabinet. So these don't include any water, test kits, rocks, equipment. So you really do have to factor in all these things. And I think we see a lot of people joining the hobby and a lot of people leaving because, a lot of people don't consider those things. So this has been a bit of a longer video, but I think it's a necessary video, and one that I've been wanting to get out for a while and chat to you guys about. So I do hope you are all on board for the journey, because it's whichever tank I go with, it's going to be a ripper one. I guarantee you guys. And I'm gonna try to do something different with it, in terms of the stocking and the approach. So stay tuned with that. And yeah, if you're still watching the video, greatly appreciate it. And especially if you guys subscribe. I'm trying to get 10,000 subs before the year's out. I reckon we can do it, and we'll hopefully have the tank in not too long. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you guys a quick update of my current tank and how that's been going, and then we'll sign off on the video.
All right, so now for a bit of an update on the tank. Obviously, I'm going to address the hippo in the room, and when I'm talking about hippo, I'm not talking about me, you naughty people. There is literally a hippo tang, a blue tang surgeon fish that is in the reef tank. Now, before people freak out, I know it looks bad, it is bad, I don't recommend it. This is why I'm including this part in this video, and I'm not making a separate video on it, because it's not something I want to encourage. However, there is a reason for it and a method to the madness. Obviously, with this video, there is a tank upgrade in progress in mind. It's all happening behind the scenes. So this blue tank is not going to be in this long term, hopefully not even really short term. I'm hoping to have a new setup in the next couple of months. So that will obviously help out in the fact that what you're seeing here is probably semi-animal cruelty in a way if this was a long-term thing, but it isn't. So I just want to obviously state that this is not a long-term thing. Now, the reason why I purchased a blue tang is because I'm having a lot of issues with hairline algae. Now, in reef tanks is a completely normal thing, but obviously in the wild, you would have a plethora of tangs and other fish that nom on the hairline algae. You have turtles, parrotfish, tangs, rabbitfish, just a plethora of different species that gnaw on the hairline algae. And in a tank like this, in a nano with the clownfish and no other tangs, it's a little bit hard. So that is the reason why I bought it. Now, I obviously plan to buy a blue tang for my my next tank, and my local reef shop, we're having a sale. I did head into there and I saw a very healthy specimen out of a bunch of blue tangs, and I decided to pull the trigger because, in my opinion, you know, people will quarantine fish in a similar sized tank. I thought, why not quarantine it with lots of algae for it to eat, with fish that currently in the tank that aren't going to be too much of an issue with it, and just a sort of a little spot where I can really pump it with food and just keep a close eye on it. So with all that in mind, at the time of recording this video, I've had the tang in there for a week, and so far so good. It was eating like a monster in the tank that it was in the reef shop, and it has continued that trend. So absolutely stunning fish, beautiful fish. It's the third blue tang I've kept in my reefing journey, and I do really hope that I can keep this one for a very long time. And now just onto the tank itself. Besides the hairline algae, I can see little bits of bubble algae popping up here and there. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's sort of like a ticking time bomb. The corals are looking pretty happy for the most part. You can see a new coral there, which is a scully, which I got as a discount because it was chewed on by a rabbitfish. So I'm trying to heal it back. It's a little bit of one of those, you know, discount ones to see if we can bring it back. All right, sorry about that change. My microphone died. Unfortunately, I did pick up a new mic just so I can improve the audio quality a little bit, but of course, forgot to fully charge it. So I'm just using the in-camera audio. But as I was saying, I did pick up that discounted scully that a rabbitfish attacked, and I'm trying to bring it back to 100% health. It is going to take quite a while though, and I'm fully aware of that. And besides that, there isn't too much else that's happening in this reef tank. The macroalgae is completely grown in, which is starting to look really nice and covering that back wall of the tank. And I think the only thing besides that is I do have a little bit of bubble algae that is starting to grow back. And again, I'm not going to go the chemical treatment route in this tank at least. I'm just going to try and manage it as best as I can, but that might be a thing for a future reef tank that I'm going to tackle. So that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. If you have made it this far in the video, I absolutely appreciate it. It has been a long one, and I really do love making these long form videos, but obviously well aware that they can be a bit of a long watch for some people, but if you have made it this far, again, I really do appreciate it. So with that, thanks for watching the video. Hope your tanks at home are doing well, and as always, happy reefing.